Ever feel like your brain is being rewired by all this tech? Like constantly bombarded with new information, new ways of thinking?
It's definitely a lot to process.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're taking a deep dive into this article by neuroscientist Marynês Pereira. It's called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Humanity, a neuroscience perspective.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at, how AI and things like the metaverse are actually changing us, like on a neurological level. Kind of wild when you think about it.
Totally. And Pereira kicks things off by talking about this concept of neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
And I love how she explains it. It's like, imagine your brain is this constantly evolving landscape, right? Like shifting and reshaping itself based on your experiences.
Yeah, it's super dynamic. It's constantly adapting. And Pereira argues that AI is a major player in, how our brains are adapting in this whole technological age.
It's not just about like the sheer volume of information we're exposed to, though, right? It's also about the way we interact with technology.
Yeah.
And Pereira actually highlights this potential for AI to actually boost neuroplasticity, which is pretty amazing.
It is. Think of it this way. You're trying to learn, I don't know, a new language, right?
Yeah.
And you've got this AI tutor that's personalized just for you. It analyzes your strengths, your weaknesses, and then boom, it customizes the lessons to challenge you in just the right ways. So your brain is constantly adapting, forming these like new connections, becoming more flexible.
Like having a personal trainer for your mind.
Exactly.
But of course, there's always, the other side of the coin. And that's the potential for AI to actually hinder our cognitive development if we're not careful.
Right. Pereira actually uses this analogy of a student who relies too heavily on AI for their, schoolwork. Sure, they might get the assignment done, but are they truly learning? Are they retaining the information? Probably not.
It's like taking a shortcut that ultimately leads you further away from like your destination.
Right.
Right? You might get that quick result, but you're missing out on the journey, the struggle, that deep understanding that comes from like wrestling with a problem yourself.
Totally. And that lack of struggle, it can actually weaken those neuroplasticity muscles. Like if we become too reliant on AI for these easy answers, we stop flexing those critical thinking skills, our ability to analyze, to contextualize. We risk, becoming mentally lazy.
So how do we find that sweet spot? How do we harness the power of AI to enhance our brains without letting it become a crutch?
That's where Pereira's recommendations come in, and they're really practical. She starts by emphasizing the importance of, cultivating those critical thinking and data analysis skills. We've got to keep our minds sharp.
And speaking of data analysis, let's talk about AI hallucinations. This part of the article really, it really caught my eye. It's like, wait, AI can actually make stuff up?
It's not so much about AI intentionally making things up. It's more about, the limitations of current technology, I think. AI systems are trained on these massive data sets, right? And if those data sets contain inaccuracies or they reflect existing biases, well, the AI can end up spitting out information that's just skewed or sometimes just plain wrong.
And Pereira uses Wikipedia as an example, right?
Right.
We all use it, but we also know that, well, anyone can edit it, which means it's not always the most reliable source. So if AI is trained on data from Wikipedia, those inaccuracies, well, they can get amplified. It's kind of a scary thought.
Definitely. Imagine you're working on this complex scientific project and you're using this, AI-powered tool to analyze data, but the AI is hallucinating. It's like pulling in incorrect information or misinterpreting the data because of biases in its training data set.
That could lead to some major problems, especially in fields where accuracy is, absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. And that's why Pereira stresses the need for expert curation and validation of AI-generated information. We need people who can critically evaluate the output of these systems, identify potential biases, and make sure that the information we're consuming is actually reliable.
It's like having a filter for that fire hose of information that's constantly, bombarding us. We need those experts to help us separate the signal from the noise. But even with expert validation, it seems like developing our own critical thinking skills it's more important than ever, right? So how do we do that? Like, how do we actually do that in a practical way?
Well, I think it starts with just being mindful of how we're using AI, Are we passively accepting everything it tells us? Or are we questioning its assumptions? Are we looking for evidence? Considering different perspectives? Are we using it as a tool for deep learning, or are we using it as a crutch to avoid thinking for ourselves?
It's like the difference between blindly following a recipe and truly understanding the science of cooking.
Yeah.
You can follow a recipe and get a decent meal, but if you understand the underlying principles, the chemistry, the techniques, then you can adapt, you can experiment, you can create something truly unique.
Exactly. That's deep learning, right? It's going beyond that surface level understanding and really grappling with the why behind the what. And AI can be an incredible tool for facilitating that kind of deep learning, but only if we use it in the right way.
And this brings us to another one of Pereira's recommendations: fostering human connection and collaboration, even in this increasingly digital world. Why is that so important? Especially, in the context of AI.
Well, think about it. Even with all the advances in AI, there are certain things that machines they can't replicate. The nuances of human communication, empathy, the emotional intelligence that's so crucial for building relationships and navigating those really complex social situations. These are uniquely human qualities, and we need to nurture them. We need to protect them.
And those qualities are essential for effective collaboration, right? For bouncing ideas off each other, for sparking creativity, for pushing each other to think in new ways. It's like AI can give us the raw materials, the information, the data, but it's through human interaction that we turn those materials into something meaningful, something innovative, something that truly reflects, our shared humanity. So we've talked about the potential downsides of AI, hindering neuroplasticity, the risk of hallucinations, becoming overly reliant on technology. But it seems like Pereira is ultimately optimistic about the future.
She is. She believes we have the power to shape the trajectory of AI, to harness its incredible potential for good, while mitigating the risks. It's a balancing act.
Okay, but how do we do that? Like, where do we even begin?
Well, that's where her final recommendation comes in. Advocating for ethical and responsible AI development. And this is where things get really interesting, because it's not enough to just focus on, our own individual skills and habits when it comes to AI.
Right. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend like this isn't happening all around us. It's here. It's happening.
Exactly. We need to make sure that AI is being developed and deployed in a way that actually aligns with our values, as a society.
So it's not just about personal responsibility then, it's also about collective action.
Precisely. Pereira, she calls for transparency in, how these AI systems are actually created. We need to understand how these systems actually work, what data they're trained on, and what biases might be, baked in.
It's like, if we're going to trust these systems to make decisions that actually affect our lives, we need to know, well, what's going on under the hood?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's not just about transparency either. We also need accountability.
So, meaning that the people and institutions that are actually developing and deploying AI, they need to be held responsible for the consequences of their actions.
Exactly. If an AI system causes harm, there needs to be a way to identify who's responsible and to actually hold them accountable.
That makes sense. I mean, we wouldn't let a company just, release a dangerous product without any safeguards or any oversight.
Right. And the same principle applies to AI. It's a powerful tool, and with great power comes great responsibility, as they say.
Pereira also emphasizes the importance of, data quality and accuracy in AI development.
Oh, that's crucial. Remember we were saying earlier about those AI hallucinations?
Yeah.
If AI systems are trained on biased or inaccurate data, well, they're going to produce biased and inaccurate results.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. So we really need to make sure that the data that's feeding these AI systems is, it's high quality, it's representative, and as free from bias as possible, which, that's hard.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty tall order.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's essential if we want to create AI systems that are, fair, reliable, and truly beneficial to society.
So to kind of summarize, Pereira's vision for this ethical and responsible AI development involves transparency, accountability, and a focus on data quality.
Yeah, that's a great summary. And I think it's important to emphasize that this isn't just the responsibility of tech companies and researchers either.
You're saying that we all have a role to play.
Absolutely. As citizens, we need to educate ourselves about AI, engage in these critical conversations, and demand better from the people and institutions that are actually developing these technologies.
We can't just sit back and passively observe as AI reshapes our world. We need to actively participate in shaping its future.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that's actually what makes Pereira's articles so inspiring. It's not just a warning about the potential dangers of AI, it's a call to action.
A call to embrace the incredible potential of AI while also, being mindful of the risks and taking steps to mitigate them.
Exactly. And that actually brings us back to this idea of human intelligence.
Right. We talked about how AI can both enhance and hinder our cognitive abilities.
Yeah. And I think one of the key questions we need to be asking ourselves is how do we actually want AI to shape the future of human intelligence? Like, how do we want that to play out?
It's like we're standing at a crossroads.
We are.
We can choose to use AI in a way that makes us smarter, more creative, more connected.
Or we can choose to let it, make us lazy, complacent, and isolated.
It's a choice we're making every day with every interaction we have with technology, really.
It is, and it's a choice that will have, well, profound implications, I think, for ourselves, for our children, and for generations to come.
Pereira doesn't dive super deeply into the metaverse in this article, but she does mention it briefly.
She does, and I think it's worth, exploring how her ideas about AI and human intelligence might apply to this whole emerging technology.
Because the metaverse is often touted as the next big thing, right? It's
Right.
this immersive digital world where we can work, we can play, we can socialize, we can even learn.
And just like with AI, there's incredible potential for good there.
Imagine like being able to visit historical sites virtually, to attend conferences for the comfort of your own home, to collaborate with colleagues on projects from like anywhere in the world.
The possibilities they're mind-boggling.
They really are. But
Mhm.
but of course there are also, potential downsides. We've already talked about the risks of addiction, isolation, and the spread of misinformation online.
And those risks could be even greater in the metaverse, where the lines between the real and the virtual become even more blurred.
If we're not careful, we could end up, living more in the metaverse than in the real world, neglecting our relationships, our communities, even our own like physical and mental well-being.
That's why it's so important to approach the metaverse with the same, critical thinking and ethical awareness that Pereira advocates for when it comes to AI.
We need to be mindful of the potential risks, set boundaries, prioritize our well-being, and demand that the companies developing the metaverse actually prioritize, ethical considerations.
We need to make sure that the metaverse is a tool that enhances our lives, not something that consumes them.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Marynês Pereira's article, I'm curious.
Yes.
What are you taking away from all this? What's resonating with you the most?
I think, honestly, for me, it's that sense of agency, that Pereira really emphasizes. It's not about being, like, swept away by this tide of technological change. It's about actually shaping the future that we want to see.
Yeah, it's about taking control,
Yeah.
not just letting things happen to us.
Exactly. And it's a future where, where AI could actually amplify our intelligence in some pretty extraordinary ways. Like imagine AI helping us process information more efficiently, uncovering hidden patterns, and even, pushing the boundaries of our own creativity.
It's like AI could become this extension of our minds,
Yeah.
helping us see things that we might otherwise miss.
Exactly. But remember what we were saying about deep learning? If we just become, these passive consumers of AI insights, we risk becoming intellectually lazy. The real magic happens when we use AI as a springboard to dive deeper, to ask those more complex questions and explore, uncharted territories of knowledge.
So instead of like fearing that AI will make us stupid,
Yeah.
we should be thinking about how it can actually help us become even smarter.
That's the spirit. And
Yeah.
and let's not forget about the metaverse either. What if we could use AI to create these immersive learning experiences in the metaverse,
Yeah.
Ones that are like tailored to individual needs and learning styles.
That's a mind-blowing concept. Instead of just sitting in a lecture hall or reading a textbook, you could be exploring, I don't know, ancient Rome virtually, or conducting experiments in a simulated lab, or even collaborating with people from like all around the world on these crazy creative projects.
Learning would become like an adventure, an immersive experience that really engages all the senses.
I love that. And AI could play a crucial role in making those experiences not only engaging, but also like deeply personalized and effective.
Totally.
It's all about harnessing the power of these technologies in a way that aligns with our values, our goals, and, our aspirations as human beings.
I completely agree.
And that brings us back to Pereira's call for ethical and responsible AI development.
Yeah.
It's not just about, making sure AI doesn't do anything harmful. It's also about, ensuring that it actually contributes to a better future for everyone.
100%. It's about using AI to solve those real world problems, to promote equity and justice, to foster creativity and innovation, and to ultimately enhance, our shared humanity.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into, AI and the future of humanity, What's the one message you hope our listeners take away from all this?
I think the future is not it's not predetermined. We actually have the power to shape it. By embracing critical thinking, demanding ethical development, and prioritizing, human connection,
Right.
we can harness the power of AI and these other emerging technologies to create a future that is not only technologically advanced, but also, just an equitable and truly human.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of Marynês Pereira's thought-provoking article. We encourage all of you listening to continue the conversation, Share your thoughts and ideas and be active participants in shaping the future of AI. Until next time, keep diving deep.